Hello, folks. John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here, and welcome to another episode of the Tic Toc Diner. Please grab a menu, have a seat. Your server's going to be right with you, and Jeff and I are going to be cooking up in the kitchen some fraud with a side of prevention. Today, we've got a couple of great guests on who are going to be talking about putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to providing compliance support to brokers. So you're probably going to want to check that stuff out. And with me, as always, is my dear good friend, Jeff Dickinson. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm looking forward to this show because we got a new innovative app. I'm not sure if it's an app or what, but what they do, it's pretty innovative, So I can't wait to get into it and find out what it's all about, because I think it's going to help out a lot of people out there. I think you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. I've actually been talking to these guys a little bit before, and they impressed the hell out of me with what they're trying to do. And I'm trying to figure out a way to help integrate that into some of the consulting work that I do. So it should be very interesting as time goes on. Speaking of time, how was your flight back from Egypt? Any problem with the pyramids? They still standing?
No, but I've been watching on a show on what they've been uncovering since I built them out there, and it's completely fascinating. And one more thing I got to add, since I did say app earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are going to create an app that will make things a little bit more. So I'm looking for, some profit off of that tool, since I just said that.
There you go. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the news real quick. Our news is brought to us by Trucking News Hub. This is the official news outlet of the Freight Fraud Task Force. Be sure to check that out at truckingnewshub.com. And the big story that I saw today actually comes from through FreightWaves, and they've got an article about the professionalization of truck identity in cargo theft. And what really impressed me about this is that we, those of us who deal with fraud on a regular basis, we've been constantly advising, particularly shippers, to double check the sides of the truck to make sure that you are loading who you are loading. And the bad guys have caught on. They figured out, now we need to have a more professional looking label. The taped on pieces of paper aren't quite cutting it anymore. The handwritten signs aren't quite cutting it anymore. So they're now resorting to purchasing cheap vinyl decals, which you can produce in an hour or so. Slap that on the side of the truck when you make the pickup, and that way you look professional enough in order to just get loaded. And that's all they have to do. They only have to fool the shipper long enough to get loaded. And then if they go to leave, they can peel that decal right off, and boom, your cargo is gone. So, guys, we have to be better about how we vet carriers. And that's what that article is talking about, is that they need to be better. One of the things that I know I have been recommending to my clients lately is not just looking at the side of the truck, but also checking the VIN number of the power unit that is hauling your freight. You want to make sure that is covered by insurance. So it's a quick little quality check to make sure, hey, is that VIN number on the COI? Mm-hmm. That way that it's at least covered, because the bad guys haven't quite thought about how to mask their VIN yet. But it does require for a shipper to actually stop and look. So for you super busy shippers out there, it might be worth hiring a couple more people from your security shack to actually do this kind of thing. Just throwing that out there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, leads into the Task Force Minute.
For the Freight Fraud Task Force, it's time for the Task Force Minute with your host, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera.
Oh, my public, they adore me. But for today's Task Force Minute, that's really the bottom line. Make sure you know who the heck you're loading. Shippers, you are the front line and the last line of defense. Double check to make sure the name on the side of the truck matches the BOL that's provided to you by the broker. Make sure the driver's name is the same. Check their ID. Please, by all means, check their ID. We don't expect you to be able to spot a fake CDL, though that would be nice if you can. But certainly make sure that you can verify the identity of the person who you are loading. And last and certainly not least, take a look at that VIN number. That VIN number can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars just by
another thing too, John, especially if you're a shipper that ships high value, high risk merchandise. Take a picture of the power unit license plate as well as the trailer license plate as well. There are some gaps out there, but if you're using Genlogs or something like that, and not just a DOT number and an MC number, but also power unit license plate number and a trailer license plate number, as they are different, will give more information to track those bad guys down. So make that a part of your checklist when you're moving high business, high risk, type of products. You'll cover your backside for sure.
Fraud prevention is not a cost center. Folks need to understand that it's not a cost center. It is a means to save money at the end of the day. You ask yourself, what is the cost of not doing it?
You don't want to know that.
See the value. Absolutely. And that's your Task Force Minute.
For the Freight Fraud Task Force, this has been another Task Force Minute. Please be sure to like and subscribe on all of our social media. Until next time, don't let scammers take you for a ride.
So I'd like to introduce the guys from FlexShield. FlexShield is a very innovative program. And well, you know what? I'm not going to spoil the surprise. I'm going to let Gianluca DiFranco and James Milli go ahead and explain to us what's going on. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So what is FlexShield? What is it that you guys do? And how did you even come up with this concept?
James, you could start us off.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with how did we come up with this concept? So I've owned Visible Logistics, that's our brokerage, for 3 years. And, recently we had a pretty big bout with double brokering, which I'm sure anyone watching the show can feel is pretty relevant to them. I think everybody's had at least an experience with it once or twice, if not, hopefully not more. We had some different tools that we use. Obviously, we're not going to go into which specific ones they were, that are, pretty costly, and they are effective tools for getting information. And we had a lane that was a tougher lane to move. And, we ended up moving 4 loads with this carrier who was double brokering, and ended up hitting us for about $12,000 in fraud. So it was a alarming situation. Obviously, it's never ideal to lose that much money, but also a learning situation. And when that happened, we were communicating with a bunch of different, collection companies and carriers, and it's crazy. You learn a lot in that period of time, hearing from carriers on that side what they're going through. And obviously there are different laws that are in place where really the shipper is the one who ends up being the one that's responsible, but a lot of times it comes back on the broker because you don't want that to go onto your shipper, right? So when that happened, I guess I'm the type of person, I think, well, how can we fix this, right? And there's really no insurance out there for double brokering. Obviously there is for cargo theft. So me and Gianluca together kind of put our heads together and like, well, what can we do to make this something where brokers and carriers don't have to deal with this anymore? So we looked at a variety of things, and what we came to is we're not going to be an insurance company, but we decided that a freight warranty, obviously for you out there, the difference between a warranty and insurance is unforeseen loss. A warranty is when you have a tool, if it fails, that there's something that gets paid. So we took it a step further, and we really wanted to look at, like, one, how do we stop fraud from happening at the highest rate possible? And, what we came to is human verification. And I think this is something that, John, we talked about this. Nothing can beat a human verification, right?
Right.
And AI is great. AI is obviously evolving, but at the end of the day, human verification just can't be beat, especially in this world. So we decided by teaming those two things up together and displaying the information to our customers that some of the other tools have, that we can really create something that, one, allows brokers and carriers to kind of take it off their plate to have to vet so closely and be an expert in that industry, because we think that they should be an expert in moving freight, right? Because that's what they do. That's what their business is. And by doing this, it allows us to take the onus of, hey, here's a decision we make, and let's actually go ahead and back that decision up with the amount of what that load costs. So as you were saying before, John, putting our money where our mouth is what we firmly believe in. It's something where, once again, we feel it's very effective, and our current customers right now are raving about it. So we're excited to talk more about it on the show, obviously.
Awesome.
Ed?
Yeah. I mean, you went through the whole thing. Is that the end of I'm just kidding. We're good to go now.
Thanks for joining us.
I got a good elevator pitch. What can I say?
Next week.
No, that's that's pretty much the gist of it. Obviously, there's a lot of detail that's involved with it. Basically, a little bit about some of the background that we have. We went to Cleveland State together. Me and James. We played on the soccer team, actually. So that's how we know each other. We got into business. We co-own a factoring company together. So that's how we're in the transportation business. Obviously, he has the brokerage. So it kind of started out as like an idea or a tool that we can add to some of our factoring customers as well, because we noticed that was a lot of, the fraud was occurring with those, those individuals as well. And it started out as just, a simple, send in a check. We'll be able to do a detection on them because we already have, obviously, the vetting going on with the factoring. So we added a fraud piece to it, right? But, when we kind of looked into it, it was a huge industry and a huge problem. Obviously, you guys speak to this every single day. And, we feel that, as James said, people shouldn't be responsible for paying something when they feel like they do everything right. So, we're not saying that traditional vetting tools aren't doing a good job. They do a fantastic job of providing the information that everybody can look at. It just comes down to what I believe is, who's looking at that information. So at the end of the day, I'm fairly new into the industry, but the number one thing that I, see from a outside perspective, as you can see, is how are we moving loads on a day-to-day basis when you have people that are looking at the vetting tools, right? And the vetting tools have the information there, but they don't know what specifically to look at, right? Or they're not, they don't have any industry experience to be able to determine if that's fraud or determine if that's a good carrier to move with, a good broker to do business with, right? So it's not about the actual information that's provided. It's we want to give an unbiased approach to doing every single check the same way and making sure we can detect, as James said, on the highest, capability of detecting the fraud and giving our customers the best decision possible. So we feel like, and I'll ask you guys, it's basically, if John and Jeff, if you guys were to vet every single, carrier or broker that was out there, you probably would stop a significant amount of the fraud that comes in, right? Because you guys,
I would hope so.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
I would hope so. Knowing what I know and what I look for, yes.
Yeah.
The numbers would drop significantly at fraud over year, right? It would be you guys, thousands of Johns, thousands of Jeffs out there that are doing the vetting. The numbers would drop and fraud probably wouldn't be in the news because you guys know exactly what to look at, exactly how to vet. So what we want to do is put a team together, which we have our team, but put a team of people that know what they're talking about, know what they're doing, know how to vet, and then pass that information on to our customers, right? So that's how we feel is the best way to, one, protect our customers from fraud, but two, then we also, as James said, we're backing it because we feel our system, our process is so good that we're going to stop it. And we feel like our brokers, our carriers that are our customers shouldn't be the one to pay for it if it does slip through.
No,
and the final piece of it is,
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I agree with it to a certain degree. But as you said, there's a human element on it. When you're talking about double brokering, it's who did you tender the freight to, number one, and who was the carrier that backed up to the shipper's door, number two. So besides any tool, you have to have that visual inspection that has to be done by a human, either walking out there and identifying the MC number, or looking at the cab card or the insurance policy and looking at the VIN number that's on the insurance policy compared to who you tendered the freight to. I mean, there's multiple steps on it that to secure a load per se, and that's what John and I try to do besides what we do. And I own a brokerage company as well. And the thing is that how do you educate the other people who have those touch points? Because there are many different touch points in this industry that have to be maintained, not on a weekly or monthly, but on a daily, multiple times a day in order to protect, the best interest of yourself, your brand, your image, and your reputation of the people who you represent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree. And, I agree that there's a lot that needs to be done and a lot of layers that need to be met. And unfortunately, for someone like yourself or John, or even kind of where we're getting to too, obviously, we're doing those things, but there's still a lot of people out there that are only using a singular tool that just displays information. So, for us, we feel like this is the first step in getting closer, because the unfortunate thing is that we'd love if it was the number of people that still get past us would be zero. And I could tell you with full certainty it's not going to be. And that's why we believe that the warranty is a strong thing, because when someone decides that they're going to work with us, they're saying, hey, I'm putting trust in your hands, right? And saying, if you say that carrier is good, then it better be good, right? So that's where that warranty layer comes in. It's a second line of defense to say, hey, if something still does happen, it's not like, hey, go figure it out now. It's like, no, we're in this with you. We're taking a share in what your business is. And, we do it for a pretty reasonable cost. So, that's the big thing. But the thing I continuously look at is a lot of the tools out there, like you said, they're great for someone who's going to take the information. But the question that you're asking, Jeff, too, is the perfect one, is how do we effectively train people to use that information? And it's tough because you have a lot of new people coming into the industry constantly, right? So it tends to be, especially on the brokerage level, a very young industry in certain cases.
Sorry for the awkward silence on my side. My dog is going insane in the background here.
Got to get you some cats or something, John. They don't make as much.
Oh, he has them.
Oh yeah. We do a Thursday morning coffee show, and my cat a couple weeks ago was the star of the show early on.
Yeah.
That's great. I agree with whatever James said there. I don't know if you guys have any comment on it.
Well, I do. Since you guys are a startup, where do you see your company going? In the future, what do you see the innovations to it to make it better than what it is today, and how is that going to affect the new people? Because when you think about it, technology, what we have today will change 3 months from today, right? It used to take years for that technology to grow and evolve, but it's happening at a rapid pace. So what are you doing as a company to be ahead of that curve, to be on top of that with all the nuances and changes that we're seeing day in and day out in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Obviously we have to be willing to adapt, as owners and founders of companies, we have to be willing to adapt to what's coming. I will say that at the end of the day, what I know, me and James, when we talk to John, the main thing is that we can get, all the data points and everything and all the automation, and that's all good. And, all the AI, whatever it may be. Right. But nothing can really detect fraud as easy as a phone call some of the times. Right. So what we're, coming up with is obviously to adapt on the technology side of things, but we always want to keep that verification, that manual human verification, everybody looking at the details and making sure that we can actually see the fraud and have our experts determine if that's the right way to look at it, because there's things that a human can see that AI can't see when it comes to the fraud related processes, right? So we want to make sure that we don't lose that piece of it, because we believe that is actually going to detect. And since we've been in business, I mean, I would say the human verification call has detected the most amount of fraud that we've seen on our side. So that's a good aspect to see it. But are we not willing to adapt? I mean, look at us. We're a lot younger. No offense, than you guys, right? So we're always going to adapt to the technology side of things. That's never going to not be the case. But we do realize that having that human verification is always going to be a big factor of it as well. And adapting is also going to be adapting to the different scams and schemes that are going on, right? You guys see a different fraud scam that probably happens every other week, right? So, if we can keep our ears and eyes open to all the different scams and get ahead of the game when it comes to that, we can then detect it, have it in our system, and make sure that our analysts are the ones that are detecting this for our customers. So I would say, as far as adapting technology-wise, we can maybe automate some of the easier data point stuff, which we already have, to make it a lot easier. But we don't want to use that. We don't want to lose that human review. And then we also, like I said, we just want to make sure we can adapt to the scams that the fraudsters are coming up with every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing the younger folks coming into industry and asserting themselves and trying to figure out what we've all been trying to figure out over the decades, especially, and yeah, I'll fall back on my experience, what we had back then and what we're seeing today, and how it's evolving and how technology is big because it's being used against us by the criminals that are out there to infiltrate our systems and to break through our firewalls that we have. It always seems that they're one or two steps ahead of us, and we need to reverse that. We need to start really thinking about the possibilities and how we can get ahead of them around the curve before and have them try to catch up to us. Because, being realistic, fraud is never going to go away. It's not going to go away. What we can do as an industry, if we unite as one, we can minimize the impact, right? And so what I would strongly suggest to you guys, being that you're so young, is start collaborating. And I don't think there's too many people. Maybe it's just you that are in the warranty part of the business, which is great, covering the double brokering. But what nuances and things that are coming up in that segment of the business where you can learn from others, that you can adapt to your innovation to make it better than what it is. So I would strongly recommend, reaching out and collaborating with those people and seek to who they are, maybe even factory companies and stuff like that, because they deal with somewhat kind of things that you're dealing with, with trying to pay claims and get people paid and all this other kind of stuff. But I would strongly recommend that. I don't know how you feel about that, John, too, but I mean, I think it's key. It's going to be key to your success.
Well, ultimately, I see the two biggest lessons that come with fraud prevention are certainly in play here. One, it's a multi-layered process. Having that multiple layers, I think everyone knows that there's no such thing as a silver bullet when it comes to dealing with fraud. So if you're able to sit there and compile the data from the multitude of different sources that are out there and produce a high level, good decision for your customers, yeah, damn right, that's got value in it.
Yep.
One of the other things that you guys are focused on is that warranty. And I think Jeff mentioned before, I don't think anyone else in this business is doing that. Okay. So the innovation that you're bringing by offering that warranty, it tells your customers that you have to stay on top of what you're doing. And again, you're putting your money where your mouth is to do it, and that's what's really exciting about what you guys are offering. And I'm glad that you had the chance to come out onto the show and share that process with us. But I'm curious, because there is a human element. How many people do you have working with you? How many analysts do you have working with you to try to sort through this mess?
We have a large team right now, but obviously as that goes, our user count goes up, then obviously we have to add more of the analysts, which is that's a good problem to have, right? If we can continuously add people and human detection is key, the more customers we have on board, the more that we're going to need, because what we do offer, and another little piece, because a lot of people ask about this, is kind of the speed process of it, right? So how long does it take from a submission to a decision, which is basically, I could kind of give you a little bit of a scope of how it works just so that, everybody that's listening understands it. It's basically if John's looking to move a load with a carrier and you want to vet that carrier, you submit their detail, their DOT-MC number over to us, and then we do it. That's all our customers have to do. We then display a profile for our customer, just like you see on all the other vetting tools, all the same information. They're able to see the profile. And then within anywhere below 15 minutes, right? So 15 minutes is our max time to get you a decision, because what we want to do is, what we realized is that speed is a big process of transportation, but we also know that speed is probably the number one problem of fraud too, because of the amount of time that vetting doesn't take place. You got to move the load quick. You got got them pressuring you, so on and so forth. And then you go ahead and just say, okay, let's do it. And they didn't get a proper vetting process, right? So we feel that we can go through a successful vetting detection, multi-layered fraud detection system, as you mentioned, John, and still give a reasonable amount of time to where we're not, ultimately dictating and losing our clients' potential from moving that load, right? So the speed process is very good, as we're still able to give an educated decision in that amount of time. And we either give an approved decision, meaning good to go, they're a confirmed contact, we're contacting them directly, they look good, everything, they pass the process, right? We give a decline decision, which could be a various amount of things: fraud reports, lack of insurance, whatever it may be, contact information, fake, email booking the load. There's multiple different reasons why a decline would happen. If we do decline one of the carriers or the brokers, that ultimately means that the warranty doesn't apply. So it doesn't mean that we're saying, we're not the last resort of them having to actually move the load. If John still wanted to move the load with a declined carrier, that would be up to our customer, right? We're just saying that it won't be covered by the warranty, saying we're giving a strong, highly suggest don't use them, but if you have to, it's not on us, right? And then we also have the conditional status, which I think you guys will appreciate this, because we've had we see a lot of different people complain about how carriers and brokers can be blacklisted because of something that maybe was out of their control, right? So if they have on a vetting tool, whether it's declined, unacceptable, whatever it may be, right? It could have been for something that they didn't really deserve to be blacklisted for, and then it was maybe their email got hacked and somebody was booking from a different load from their email, and that's not on them, right? That's a good carrier that had an unfortunate situation. We're not going to decline that carrier if we find that was a fake email being used. We're going to put it as a conditional status, saying, hey, conditional approval, carrier is in good with standing, carrier is good, but don't book load with anyone other than the confirmed contact that we have on your profile. So we're not going to blacklist carriers. We're not going to blacklist brokers into our customers never using them just because they got hit with an unfortunate, identity theft hack or something like that. We want to find the actual carriers, the good people. We're trying to prevent the bad actors, right? So if we can prevent that at the same time and not lose credibility for the carriers just because they had one bad incident, we want to protect them as well. So those are the three situations that we can give within that 15-minute time frame. And our customers love the fact that it's kind of a peace of mind, right? And most of our customers, obviously the owners, have a little bit more peace of mind knowing that, we have a large brokerage that just signed up with us. They have about 30 brokers that are checking loads every single day. The owner's saying, yeah, well, now I know that I can hire a brand new person right out of college, whatever it may be. And I know the vetting process is the same for every single one because it's going through us. So it gives a peace of mind knowing that whether it's a 1-year experienced person or a 50-year experienced person, it's still getting the same fraud detection process. It's still getting the same vetting process to protect the business rather than, have to worry about that on a day-to-day basis. So that just kind of explains a little bit more of how the process works. Very simple, though. We still give the information in a profile to our customers so they can still see it. Still, just like any other vetting tool, they're able to see it. All the FMCSA data that is, updated every single day. It's just an added layer and an added protection that we're the only ones that offer.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's unbelievably exciting. It really is, because you talk about how some of these brokers, they're bringing in a lot of these college kids that wind up being the carrier sales reps, etc., working at these brokerages, especially the larger brokerages. I mean, I don't know how many ads I've seen for Axel going to campuses near me because I've got them near me. But it's refreshing to see that there's something that helps to support them. You know, we've been pushing education because education is so important for a lot of these new brokers that are out there, and new carriers and new factors and all that, and anyone just trying to get into this industry. But you know, this kind of help takes a little bit of the guesswork out, and I can certainly see where that value comes in. And congratulations on getting a decent sized broker already on board with you guys on that.
Yeah.
I know you hadn't had that yet when we first talked, but that's fantastic. I'd love to see how this results play out over the course of the next couple of months.
Thank you.
We actually the other day we were talking to an even larger brokerage, you know, one of the larger in the country, just through a relationship that we had, and they had asked, would this be able to really replace even my carrier vetting team? And you know, really from like a carrier vetting, you know, because a lot of these larger brokerages to mid-sized brokerages have a carrier vetting team, right? And once again, those teams, a lot of them do good work, right? But at the same time, you know, from an expense standpoint and from a liability standpoint, you know, a lot of these with how much fraud is really happening and how much it's increasing year over year, you know, to be able to have a, you know, kind of an outsourced team and be able to have money back behind their decisions, you know, that was something where it kind of made, you know, who we're talking to stop in their tracks for a second, and it's a potential customer we're working to close right now. So, you know, it's something where, you know, that's kind of the way we're starting to view this, is like we are an external vetting team for brokerages, you know, and that is backed by a money or a warranty that kind of puts our money where our mouth is. We keep saying that, but it's the truth. And that's kind of what we're building. And, you know, as in any decision that's made, like if I said, you know, Jeff, you asked me, hey, what should I do about my brokerage? Say, oh, go do this. And, you know, I don't have any responsibility for what happens if you do it. Right. But like when someone actually says, hey, if you do that and it doesn't work, I'll give you this much money. You'd be like, well, maybe I'm more likely to try, you know, like, and that's kind of the concept we thought of when we were first starting this, is like, hey, who are we to tell you to make a decision if you could still have, you know, liability behind it? But, you know, like you said before, Jeff, one of our first things that we did when entering the space is reaching out to people like John and others in the industry, you know, like some other names be like Dale Prax we spoke with, and, you know, some other people at some of these other vetting firms, just to understand, like, what are you guys seeing? And, you know, and I know a lot of people say, I know Dale says it all the time, and he said it to us, is that all these programs need to work together. Like if you truly believe that you want fraud to stop, then you have to work together and you have to share information. Because Gianluca, you know, we were talking last week, we caught, you know, countless numbers of people that we caught through a call that, you know, was blatantly fraud, or blatantly a brokerage owner is like, do not do that load with that person because it is fraud. Right. Like, and to be able to see that, you would, if you looked at some of the profiles on these people, like sometimes it's happening within a day, right? Sometimes it's happening within a couple of hours. And, you know, once again, the information displayed is very effective in many ways, but, you know, there's nothing more effective than the time and place in that moment, being able to verify and understand something at that level. And that's what we're super excited about. And I think is going to make a big difference for people. And it's not going to reduce fraud down to zero, like you guys said. Right.
No.
It's if we can get this number cut down a quarter over what it is, that's a win, you know, across the board. Or even if we take the brunt of some of that, and you know, we can obviously cast a wider net to brokerages, carriers, and those alike, you know, and be able to take the brunt of some of that. Obviously, our numbers should be lower than what most people would probably do on their own. You know, that's making a difference. And that's really, you know, when this first happened to me, I'm like, this isn't fair, right? Like, why is someone just like searching to do this? You know, it's you know, your people work hard for what they do, and there's just no reason for it to happen, really, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree wholly. You know, the thing is that you just have to be on top of it, you know, throughout your whole career. I don't know how long you guys are going to last. You may last longer than me, but you know, it's a journey. It's every single day you have to learn. You have to be a sponge and absorb. and I say it because I experienced it, but back in the day in 1980 when I started, we didn't have to worry about this stuff. We used common sense, and the contracts we had were handshakes. They were ironclad. We don't have to worry about all this stuff. Then things just started evolving. When technology came in and cell phones and all that, it just opened up a can of worms. I mean, the only way that you're going, and it's a stupid comment, but I'll say it anyway, the only way you're going to end fraud is if all shippers vanish. That's the only way, because if you don't have a shipment, you don't have fraud. It starts with the shipper. There's a lot of responsibilities that a shipper should be accounted for, especially a carrier, especially a broker. Anybody that touches freight should be accountable for their own actions and what they do, and how they protect themselves. And as we talk, and we have people like yourselves on the show, and as we talk amongst ourselves, we find these gaps, we find these loopholes that we think we've covered, that we think that we've got it under control, and we don't. And that's why vetting tools are on the outside, sort of speaking, and we need to internalize it, departmentalize it, and get it on site in a warehouse, and have the other set of eyes that are our eyes. They're your eyes, they're my eyes, they're John's eyes, because what we think is correct, and we're doing the best that we possibly can for whomever we're doing business with, things can change from A to B. They can be as ethical as your mom is, or your dad, but yet when they're out of sight, all of a sudden something comes up, a bribe, who knows? That could change on an instant. And how can you stop it? When they bang that door. And if you have the proper measures and steps in there, and work instructions, and a process improvement plan, an SOP, whatever in there that your dock supervisor is accountable for, you can stop it in its tracks if you just took the extra steps. And when I'm saying that, because I worked on that side, it only takes 5 minutes of your time to check out all the things that need to be checked out to verify a carrier why they're on the premise, and you can stop it right in its track before you get lifted. I mean, the cheapest way to do business out there might be the most expensive decision you've ever made in your entire life. You may not think so. You may not think it's going to happen to you, but when it does, it's usually catastrophic, and it usually costs you a hell of a lot more money than what you think you're saving. So
ring the bell, Jeff. You are 9 for 9. You have been able to work that expression into every show that we've done so far.
It's so important. It is. It's so important. And, our audience changes every single week. You might have the same ones. And I just don't want to miss not saying that because of the importance behind it. People don't think that way, and we need people to unite and think the same similar way. How do we prevent fraud collectively as a unified logistics operation from all different sides of the business? We have to do it that way. We really do.
So let's talk a little bit about evolution. Now, we know, in fact, Gianluca, you brought up how, we see a new form of fraud on a fairly regular basis, usually weekly, every other week or something. There's something new that jumps out that we have to get in front of. What are you trying to do to try to read the tea leaves to what is the next evolution the bad guys are going to go to? And then how do you try to protect your customers from that new evolution?
I think, honestly, we have to just remain clear as to where we're looking at, and obviously remain attentive to everything that's going on, right? So we have to have our ears and eyes. I think I mentioned it earlier. Everywhere, whether it's just different little postings on Reddit, you see stuff on Reddit, your guys' podcast, YouTube, all of this stuff that people are saying, we can actually detect some of these things that are happening and put it to our customers earlier than, might not be seen in the public, right? So one thing happens in California, one thing happens in Oregon, whatever it may be, there's one little post about it. We might not be anything, but what we can do is ultimately adapt to it and look into it a little bit deeper on an analyst side of things, right? So, to evolve and consistently know what's going on, that's going to be very key. and making sure that we're communicating with, guys like you, that are consistently on the lookout every single day for these fraud detections. We're ultimately the ones that have to be looking for it because, brokers aren't looking for those things. They got 10,000 other things going on. Carriers aren't looking for those things. We have to be the ones to evolve and to make sure that we can catch on to these scams. And that's how we can ultimately prevent, I would say, them from happening in the future. But I mean, the main one right now that you guys have probably been seeing is just when the MCs go out of business and then, next day those are being booked on behalf of them, right? I mean, it's not new, but it's something that's happening quite often. Now, how do we detect that? There's no data point that can detect that. It's very difficult. There's nothing screaming at you like, oh, boom, they just went out of business, right? We have to be attentive and hearing to if that's happening beforehand, checking into, whether it's financials or insurance changes or anything that may happen. And then we can do the manual verification on that when these changes are detected, right? So a lot of the times it's kind of written in the stars if things are going to happen in the future. It's just how you determine that information and how it's actually going to happen. So a lot of this fraud it shows up months before it actually happens. The changes are there. The notifications, the signs are there. We just need to be able to detect it and be able to actually look at it and determine that is actually what's happening. So if we're consistently, and that's what comes with our daily monitoring. So we do daily monitoring on every single carrier or broker that's in our system. So if there's any detection of changes or any fraud reports, anything out there, we're consistently adapting, updating those decisions if need be, so that we can. So once John's cat's done, I'll be able to I'll be able to finish my thought, right? But that's how we make sure we consistently protect, because things change on a day-to-day basis, right?
They do.
But we have to be attentive to it. And I kind of want to go back a little bit to what Jeff was saying, and kind of to answer your question, John, about the evolution of it. I'd like to play devil's advocate a little bit, because I know you mentioned like the education is key and all of that, right? But if you ask me, it's if our current procedures and processes were working, why was fraud up 400%? If the vetting tools and the processes and the SOPs that we all have, and all I'm asking is, if it was really working, it wouldn't be going up. It would be gradually decreasing, which I'm not saying we're not, they're not all doing good work, or they're not all these things are going well. I'm just saying, what has to change for that number to start gradually dropping rather than...
I have the answer for you. I definitely have the answer for you. It's profits over due diligence, meaning that they don't have their priorities set, and not everybody is doing that. Just because it's written, right, and we're suggesting it to minimize the impact, people are concentrating more on price than anything right now because of the downward pressure on them. And a lot of them, unfortunately, don't know how to talk up to their supervisors, their CEOs, their presidents, and telling them how bad it is and the impact of doing the things that we're doing. And plus, a lot of people, say they don't get paid to do that kind of stuff. It's not part of their responsibility to do that. And it is, because, a logistics manager or a driver, they do have responsibilities. If when they got their CDL license, pre-trip inspections and all of that, that's a different show. But they're responsible to do that. Yet they say that they don't get paid to do it, or they don't do it at all. A lot of shippers out there, logistics managers, have the mindset out there, it's never going to happen to me, so why should I go and do this stuff? They're more reactive than proactive. And so the thing is that you need to change that mindset in order, to answer your question. Once they change that mindset and go from a reactive to a proactive, and actually create work instructions and documents to support the reasons why they do this, and show process improvement over time of what they've stopped and what they've saved, it only puts feathers in their caps, because they're doing by due diligence, and due diligence isn't a common thing to do right now because, of the economic position that we're in. Desperate people do desperate things in desperate times, so they slack off. They lack these kind of things to do. And that's what we have to push here. That's what the Freight Fraud Task Force is all about audits, education, and best practices. And that's what we need to implement. You want to see a change? I can guarantee you, if everybody got on that same page, if everybody was united in all fronts of logistics and had those work instructions and process improvements and SOPs and followed it day in and day out, you will see a change. You would see a drastic change. And that's why it's not happening.
Well, I think what you just said is we're kind of, I guess, the antithesis of that, because, for us, we have to be proactive or else we're the ones losing money, right? Yeah. So like exactly. You talk about profits before, what was that? Due diligence, right? So like in that case, like if our people aren't telling us those things, it's worse for our company. Let's just call it what it is, right? And that's what's exciting about it from a true, like, solving a problem level is, like, I keep saying we're the ones that take the hit, but we really are. And when you have that type of, we'll call it pressure, but I don't know if we call it pressure, but when you have that on you, you have to be better. You have to find ways. And like John was saying, we have to be talking to people like you, other experts in the industry who are seeing these things. But also too, we have to be focused in on, there's, let's call it 80-20 rule of, Pareto principle, right? 80% of the fraud is happening the same way, right? And there's another 20% that's probably a little more unique that we should be on top of, but we need to be really, really good at the 80%. And what is that going to evolve to, right? Because, a lot of people, we've had people tell us, well, you guys don't cover, stolen cargo. It's like, okay, well, if you're doing all of the right vetting up front, and you're human, verifying with a human check, and you're doing all of that, you probably just reduced your chance of having stolen cargo by a pretty large percentage, right? And so with that being said, whether you used us or you used another tool out there that displays the information, and that's kind of what we go back to continuously is like, yes, we need to be very good, and we believe that. But right now, from what we're giving, I would say we're probably giving an additional, 5 times the maybe even 10 times the information coverage, all of those different things. Like your likelihood of fraud goes down substantially. Well, actually, it goes down to 0 if you're going with an approved carrier, because now we're the ones that are taking over that risk for you. So that's an interesting point that you bring up, because it is a tough topic, right? In any business, it's like, yes, you want to help reduce fraud, but also you want to have a company that is profitable. And I think that's what excites us about, this FlexShield Pro is that, we're really creating something where we have to be proactive. It puts a pressure on us if we're not, then it only affects us.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying, and don't take this wrong, but it's a generational issue. You guys got to take it. You guys got to run with it, because the likes of myself and John, I may go another 10 years, until I have 55 years involved, because I love what I do. But many of my generation are well retired and stuff like that. But again, I don't call this a job. I call it a venture, and I love to go on hunting and learn every single day. But it's up to you guys to take what we've taught, what our experiences are, and take it up another level. That you have to run with the experience of people that actually have gone through these ultimate changes, the evolution of it, and how can you make it better than what it is now every single day. You have to outthink the thinkers, be there the first ones. Think of things that other people don't think of, write those ideas down, and how can you implement that and infiltrate what you already have to make it a better solution than what it is, and then get everybody else on the same page with whatever they're working on. You need that pace. It's a fast one. It was slow when I started, and it's definitely fast. But guess what? What was slow back then and is fast right now, what's fast right now is going to look slow 10 to 20 years from now. It's the same cycle that you're all in. You need to be on top of that and keep on, motivating others and pushing that state of mind that you must be proactive, not reactive, if you're going to end this problem.
Definitely agree.
Jeff, if you passed the torch to us, we would be so honored. It's ridiculous. You were talking about the 1980s. You got to tell me a little bit more about that. We weren't even thought of at that time. we weren't even.
Fun time when you see this. It's like what you're seeing now, and 40 years from now, you're going to say the same thing what you're saying right now, and someone else is going to say that. I wish I knew what 2026 was like. It's a cycle. It's just a cycle, and things just get more innovative, and things change at a much rapid pace, than 45 years ago. It's the industry. You just got to be a sponge. You have to absorb that, and you have to take it to another level almost every single day, in order to climb and lift others while you're climbing and help people out.
Do you guys, speaking of in 40 years from now, or not even 40, maybe 20, maybe 10, I don't know. Do you believe in this whole automated trucking thing, or what is it, autonomous trucking, where there's going to be no drivers?
You know what? From my point of view, I think it's a rush to market. Yeah, I think it's a rush to market. I really do. I mean, will it happen? Yes, eventually. I do believe so, but I think there's too many gaps and loops in there. And when you think of cybersecurity and the possibilities from now to 10, 15 years from now, what China and Russia and all the bad guys out there, what they're able to do. Just imagine if you have 100 or 1,000 of those, those EV semis out there, and somebody figures out how to hack them, 80,000-pound missiles on the road. You imagine what would happen on that side. So will it happen? I say yes. I mean, flying cars, all that kind of stuff. It's going to come for sure. But I just think that they're pushing it, just like the Tesla automobiles. I mean, that's a whole different show in and of itself. It's like when you get into a snowstorm and you've got miles and miles of roadway with no exit, and you've got 2 feet of snow that just piled on you. You got to run your heater. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the batteries? All that kind of stuff. The toxic fumes from the batteries. They didn't think about that. If they evacuate roads and stuff, what happens if something like that happens in a major city? You ain't going to do it in there. That's the things that you got to think of. I just think they're rushing it. I'm not going to be naive and say that it's not going to happen. It will, but I just don't think this is the right time. It's not the right.
I agree. The autonomous thing, it's coming. There's no way around it. I mean, I was recently out in Phoenix, and I saw what is it? Wegovy? No, it's not Wegovy.
The pizza delivery thing.
Yeah. It's basically Lyft, but it's all no driver. And in fact, I'm thinking the next time I go to Phoenix, I'm supposed to go to Phoenix again in a couple of weeks. I think next time I go, I'm going to actually try one of those going to my hotel from the airport just to check it out. Though I'm scared as hell about it. What really gets me about the whole autonomous driver thing is that the roads are full of human drivers, and the more you bring the autonomous ones in there, the bad human drivers are going to be an even more powerful wild card, because the autonomous ones, they're going to be moving predictably, assuming they haven't been hacked. They're moving predictably. They're moving in a set algorithm. You can expect what it's going to do. You can't expect what the road raging bastard behind you is doing. When who thinks you cut him off because he didn't see your turn signal or whatever. Oh my God. I can only imagine at some point, and I heard this from somebody before, at some point when autonomous vehicles really start dominating the roadway, it's going to be all humans need to get off the roadway and let just the autonomous vehicles operate, because at some point the human is going to become the problem. So, I mean,
I agree with that.
The opposite of what's going on with you guys. The human is necessary in what you do. But
I wonder if brake checking is going to drop.
Huh?
I wonder if brake checking is going to drop.
Oh, that would be a dream, wouldn't it? That
You should
would
get
be a
flicked off
dream.
with those ones. You don't get flicked off if they got you off.
Yeah, exactly.
Over there.
I can't believe how much brake checking there still is today, and how much attempted insurance fraud there is still today. You know, with all the trucks out there, not only running with ELDs, but have cameras and all this other stuff. You figure the bad guys will realize, don't get in front of an 80,000-pound missile and slam your brakes. One, if you survive, and that's an if, okay, they're going to see that you did it intentionally. I mean, you're an idiot for trying.
They could still change
insane.
They could still change the decals on the autonomous trucks, though, right?
Yeah, well, they'll have autonomous human beings doing that. You know, a robot coming out of the truck and pulling out one of those stencils to put. You know, I mean, they are machine learning. If they learn from criminals, they'll do it.
Look, there is no limit to the creativity of the criminal mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where fraud fighters like us have the most difficult time. These guys evolve. They evolve quickly. They evolve in ways we don't expect. So, you know, even if we get enough foresight to sit there and say, hey, this is the direction they're moving in, I bet this is the next thing they're going to do. You know, you may only be half right. And then they drop the other shoe on you, and God only knows how you have to react. You know, that's the only thing that concerns me about programs like yours. When the tactics change, you have to adapt so fast with it, or your exposure multiplies exponentially.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the only challenge I foresee. But with your robust analytics team, I think you guys got the bases covered. I mean, you're looking at all different areas of social media. You're right. Social media is the first place you're going to see this stuff start popping up.
Yep.
Reddit, particularly the freight broker subreddit, it has been very valuable to me in a lot of the research that I do. An insane number of Facebook groups that are out there. As much as I hate Facebook and I think it's childish as all hell, boy, let me tell you, you get some damn good intel out of there.
Yep.
Okay. You know, I wish a lot of people posted more stuff in Reddit about some of the stuff that's going on. But one of the things I do like about, I'm sorry, not Reddit, LinkedIn. One of the things I like about LinkedIn, though, as professional as everybody is, we don't give away our secrets as to how we do the stuff that we do. So that's one of the things that I'm always very careful about when I'm talking about the stuff that I try to deal with.
Yeah,
but I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, just keep in the back of your mind, never drop your guard. Never drop your guard, man. You know, never, ever, ever. When you think things are great, think of them being the worst that they possibly can. You'll never drop your guard. You know, just don't ever get complacent. Don't. You can't. Not in this industry. You know, you gotta keep the foot on the accelerator and keep moving forward at a high rate of speed. You know, that's what I would advise anybody out there. You know, don't get comfortable. Get as uncomfortable as you possibly can every day, and you'll put yourself in a great position. You really will.
Well, yep. I think it's relevant you say that too, because like before we started this and we got hit with fraud, I learned that it's not always, you know, seven different fraudsters are going to get you. It's one's going to get you 7 times, right? Like, and that's the problem, right? And that's the thing that we're so aware of, hyper aware of, is that, you know, if one person gets through, it's not just, hey, we got one fraud case. It's we've got one that might get us multiple times. So I 100% agree with you guys, and me and Gianluca are, you know, constantly talking to people out there in the market, trying to learn these different things that are going on. But like I said, the good thing is, while we're learning these things, is that, you know, we know our customers are covered, right? And, you know, we're backing them up while we're going out and aggregating this different information to know these things. So, you know, anything that you guys see, obviously we know that you will, but, you know, continue to share with us. And, you know, it takes a village, right, to get something to really make a difference. So.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour. So you guys have any parting thoughts, final thoughts, how best people can get in touch with you if they're interested in what you do? Yeah.
So go to FlexShieldPro.com. The website has pretty much all the information that you have, or you can contact us directly. We have LinkedIn. Sales at FlexShieldPro.com, contact or support at FlexShieldPro.com. Any questions, email wise. So there's a area to book a demo there if you want to see a demo of how it works. It's very simple. It's on the front page. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions anybody has, we hope we can be a big help to organizations. I really feel like it's a great addition to small, big, large, medium, whatever it may be, size brokerage. We have customers that are huge. We have customers that are small, right? We have owner operators. We have carriers too. We have to speak on behalf of carriers. We believe should be using our platform too, because they're the ones that get hit as well. So, we have a mobile version that's easier for carriers to submit checks, and it's very simple. So we want to be able to help carriers, want to be able to help brokers, everybody that's involved to prevent their organization from getting hit with fraud and taking the risk on as well. So,
and we do want people to try our program too. So we do provide a 30-day money back guarantee. So someone comes in and they're not liking what we're doing, we stand behind it, and we believe that what we're doing is a good thing and will work well for our customers. And that seems you guys do too. So, that's something that we do offer because we want to get people in there and see it. It's new. We understand that. But, once you kind of feel what we're doing, it takes the onus off of you. And there's like owning a brokerage myself. There's nothing like knowing that I don't have to worry about that or worry about newer brokers that I have making decisions that are tough to make. They're not easy for someone who's not an expert at this. And I remember sitting there, doing overrides on carriers, and it's not an easy decision to make. Gianluca, before we even started this, he would watch me do, and he's like, it's a constant conversation. We get that. So take that off of your plate and start focusing on what you're good at, and that's moving freight, whether it's carrier, broker, or that alike.
Yep.
Love it. Jeff, any final thoughts on your end?
No, just thank you guys for joining us. I love the conversation. At any time, please do not hesitate to reach out to John or myself if you have questions, if we could help you in whatever you're doing, or just bounce stuff off of us. We'll be happy to help and assist you. Also, take a look. If you have not looked at the Freight Fraud Task Force website, take a look at that. Also, take a look at my the Freight Fraud Summit. We have a summit's coming up in May 21st, 2026. Take a look at that. If you have any questions or anything, just let us know. I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's a good thing, and I don't take the guarantee lightly. So if you guys are saying that you got a guarantee and that people can bet on you, that's a good thing. That's a good selling point, as long as it's true and that you can back it up 100%. That goes a long way. It's a good value add to have. So great.
Thank you for having us on, by the way. We really appreciate it.
Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. John, how about
appreciate it, gentlemen. For next week, we are going to have John Larari visiting us as we talk a bit about the shipper's view in trying to fight fraud at the warehouse level. So be sure to check us out next week, noon Eastern time at our usual time. And we can go ahead and have a little discussion about that. And I know Jeff is super excited about that because he's worked in warehouses, since he's been building pyramids. In the meantime, folks, your check is sitting on the table. Please make sure you tip out your server. We're going to catch you next time on the Tic Toc Diner.